It is a relatively warm and humid day for practice here in Ashburn. This is Washington Football Live, and we are getting ready for week one against the Philadelphia Eagles. So it is time to take a look at the X's presented by Pepsi. If we are to take a look at what this defense is going to go up against Santana, we have to talk about the weapons that Philadelphia has, and there are quite a few. Now, there's a few injuries as well to those guys, but head coach Doug Peterson not only acts as the head coach, but he also acts as the offensive coordinator. Only two teams in the NFL do this. That is also between the Eagles and the 49ers. Of course, Kyle Shanahan, we know he was OC here as well. Jay Gruden, I believe later on, he did the play calling duties as well when he was here, but while you were here, he had Sean McVay well onto his way as well. So it makes things a little bit more complicated, but they have Carson Wentz. You talk about what he's able to do. His best season was when he actually got hurt. They went and won Super Bowl 52, but he had 33 touchdowns in 13 games in 2017. In the 7 games that he has faced Washington, they're 5-2, just about 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but he does take quite a few sacks, 17. What is it that makes Wentz so special?
I think one of the things you can give him credit for is just having a great arm, and then he's also he's a great athlete. He's a guy that time after time showed us that he can actually get outside that pocket and cause nightmares for us. I mean, we had him a couple of years before where we could have easily won the game. We just sacked him a couple of times, and he escaped and found guys wide open in the end zone. So we have to understand that, and I think that's one of the things. That's one of the main reasons why we went out there every year and beefed up our front line, because we have to make sure that guys like him in our division, we have to make sure we can hone on and get out them in the backfield.
He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. Last season, he had 27 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions, and he's done that basically in the last 3 seasons as well. So if you pressure him, he doesn't necessarily throw the ball the wrong place. But I don't know that this team, the Washington team, has been able to pressure the quarterback like we are expecting and anticipating this season. Do you see them coming out and giving him problems early on?
Who knows? I think these guys have to really go out there and show us what they're going to be made of. But I think that's one of the reasons why we have those 5 first-rounders on our D-line, that we have to beef up that area so we can make those guys in the back end have an easier job. They can't cover. I used to talk about this with D'Angelo all the time. Like, as good as D'Angelo was, he's out there covering guys forever. I saw wideouts that he played, and he had them for a couple of seconds, and then they ran 4 or 5 different routes before they got the ball in their hands. So that's one of the main reasons that we have the guys that we have on our front line, and I'm looking forward to these guys to cause havoc to anyone that's back there playing that QB position. But Wentz have to know that we're coming out the gates, come week one.
If you were to say there's a knock against him, he has been injured quite a good bit of times. Typically, though, that's not the beginning of the season. I think he's dealing on a day-to-day basis right now. But should he be out there, he will cause problems. So he's only had 1 playoff appearance, which is a loss to Seattle in 2019. I mean, durability for a quarterback, you really have to be durable, but he hasn't necessarily been that.
Yeah, he's been having some trouble. He's been having some trouble with staying healthy, being able to complete 16 games. Year in and year out. I think another knock on him is he's a guy that he takes a lot of sacks, and he's also he has the fumbles. He fumbled the ball a lot, and I think that's because he's taking those sacks and trying to find guys who's open. But if we can just get after him, I think one of the things we need to do is just make sure that we don't allow him to get that second and third read. You have to get that ball out of his hand quick, and you have to make sure that those guys in the back end don't have to be out there all day like I just talked about earlier.
They went out and they drafted Jalen Hurts out of Oklahoma. Do you anticipate seeing maybe a special package for him out there in week one?
I'm pretty sure the coaches are, making sure that these guys are prepared for that situation. When you have those kind of guys on teams, you have to always give your players enough on both quarterbacks, knowing that, hey, maybe they can bring this guy in for some sub packages and show us something different. But with Jalen being a rookie and not having that experience this year with no preseason games, you can just imagine that he's going to have a lot of rollouts, play action, stuff like that, bootlegs, doing some of the things that he does well. I'm not going to prepare my guys for a guy like Jalen Hurts to be a pocket quarterback. So you have to make sure that they're prepared for it, because anything can happen, especially when you're dealing with a guy like Wentz, who's shown you time and time again he can go down.
And it is week one without the preseason. You don't know what they're going to be trying to draw up. Not that you show everything in the preseason, but you get a little bit of an idea of what they are made of. And also it would be the same for Washington. So maybe there's that element of surprise and a few plays that are scripted that could try to throw the defense off. If you take a look again now at the weapons that they have, let's just kind of start with the running backs there. Miles Sanders, which had his way in the last time that they faced him, just running all over. Boston Scott, Corey Clement, Elijah Holyfield, which is, by the way, the son of the famous boxer. So they have that power running game. And the wide receivers, Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's dealt with a good bit of injuries. Were you on the team? You played with him, right?
Yeah, I played with him.
Yeah, you played with him. So he's supposed to be back fully speed. Alshon Jeffrey, he's been injured. And Jalen Rieger, which they got in the draft this year, look, he's a speed guy, but he's injured as well. Had something something in his shoulder during their scrimmage. So who would you say, though, is their best weapon?
I think when you think about it, and those names that you mentioned, you have a guy like Zach Ertz, and then you have Miles Sanders. Both of those guys have been thorns in our backsides. And when you think about Ertz alone, he's beating us on third downs. I think one of the reasons why we sucked as bad as we did last year on the third down on our defense is because of guys like Ertz being there for the quarterbacks. For a guy like Wentz, if we can slow things down when it comes to him finding his favorite target, then that's what I'm talking about when it comes to putting that pressure on the quarterback and making him get rid of the ball and not find that guy. But like a guy who you spoke of Deshaun Jackson, last year alone, that first game, he beat us with those 2 deep balls that he scored on us. And being that he's had a stint here in Washington, that would have been the main guy that I double covered, knowing that he can beat us down the field. So you have to always make sure that your defense ready for a guy like that, because he can definitely outrun cover 2. And you have to make sure that you're ready for that and prepared.
It's probably a little bit fortunate that Traeger's injured and not out there, because he's supposed to have the same amount of speed, which would make it a little bit more complicated. Which guy do you go for and which guy do you stop? Do you think this team has somebody to stop Zach Ertz? We haven't in the past, but there's a lot of new additions, and it's a different, Jack Del Rio taking over the defense. You have to know that he's coming out early on, and you have to be able to have an answer for him.
I think we do. I think collectively, we do. I think some of the packages that we're going to present to these guys is going to show them different things, and with pressure alone, pressure stops guys. I talk about it time and time again. When they ask me who some of the best DBs that I face, I don't, diss anybody, because I think I've faced a lot of great ones. But when you have a great pass rush and you have a great front 7, then that stops things from you in the back end. And so when you can't get open because of your quarterback have to get rid of the ball, that makes your job hard. So I think if we can do that, put the pressure on them, then yes, the defense as a whole can stop Ertz.
All right, taking a look at the offense that Washington has, we don't entirely know the entire plan, because that is something that they're going to be holding for when the media is not out there, because maybe a little trickeration is going to be a key. How does Washington control the game?
I think the way they control the game is, we have to convert on third down ourselves offensively. One of the things that you can always credit a team is how well they play on the offensive side. I mean, if we keep our defense off the field and we convert and put up points, then now we give ourselves a chance to be there at the end when it's time to win.
All right, we'll see. It's coming here before we know it, September 13th.